Welcome to Represent, episode 52. I'm excited to welcome Nicole Thalìa, an acclaimed R&B and gospel singer, international performer, and powerhouse vocalist. Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Ray?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Live from the UK, from London, right?
Yeah, from London. Yeah, United
Yes,
Kingdom.
yes. So you had a little time off. I appreciate you sitting down with me to have this conversation.
Absolutely. It's a
Yes.
pleasure.
So you've had a very interesting journey. You know, you're Italian. You grew up in
Yep.
Rome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you moved to London at 19,
Mm-hmm.
and you also study at Berklee College of Music.
I didn't actually study per se. I was supposed to,
Okay.
but so my first idea growing up really in Italy as well with my parents, we've traveled to the US very often, summers, and we were just very interested. Like my dad especially is just obsessed with New York and just like, big cities. So we were just going back and forth and, very fortunate because, very, very lovely upbringing, able to travel a lot. But because of how Italy is in general, like the country itself is not, I would say, the best place at the moment, especially for music, especially to live off of music, and especially for R&B and gospel. They don't really know much about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was something that I've always wanted to do, move away. So for a long time with my parents, we're like, okay, let's go to Berkeley's. My dad saved up and then I did the summer camp in 2010. And I was still going to high school at the time, and high school in Italy lasts for about 5 years. So the following year, I should have finished high school, graduate, and then move to America. That was the plan.
Mm-hmm.
But then I met my first boyfriend, and he wasn't really a type to travel like that. And I was, thinking about it. So I've done my audition, I got in, but I never actually managed to go to Berkeley in the end. But, in the end, I think that I had the best outcome of it all because I've chosen, I couldn't stay, much longer in Italy after that. I bought some time with my parents as well because my parents just wanted me to be happy and study abroad. But, I was like, what can I do? What can I do? And then I've had some experiences with some friends that I've known as well who already went to Berkeley and they were like, you know what? You have about 3 degrees already. So you're ready to work. Maybe what about London? So we started talking about London. In the end, I moved here. Basically, that's what happened.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think, what do you think about, okay, you mentioned that Italy doesn't have a strong presence when it comes to R&B and gospel.
Yeah.
Maybe your presence could spark a change in that. Do you feel like you're influenced through obviously you're known, you travel internationally, you have a presence. I mean, you sang at the royal wedding with the Kingdom Choir. How do you feel like you can have your influence now with a child who's growing up in Italy, seeing you doing what you're
Yeah.
doing now?
It's definitely been, I'm not gonna lie, so since 2022, I've been lucky enough to sing with the most famous singer we have in Italy. So I get to do back and forth and I get to go back for work and then come back here when, everything is finished, I come back to London. But since then, because the exposure that I've had is quite a lot and it's been a great experience because I've managed to go back to my country and this time make a statement and actually sing the way I can sing. So no one could tell me, oh, we don't sell this music. Oh, we don't know what to place you on a record deal. We don't know what to do with you. You're too good. You're too technical. There was a lot in Italy. I would say the genre that has been the most appreciated and sang in general is always like, pop. So anything that's outside of that, it's very difficult to understand. It doesn't sell. So obviously at 16, 17, when I came with this big voice, they were like, we just don't know what to do with you. But I just didn't want another person after me, to just go through what I've been through because I actually felt like I was forced to move away. So when I went back to my country to work and everyone now is celebrating and it's like, oh my gosh, Italian pride and we're so happy about you. For a minute, I was a bit resentful, I'm not gonna lie, because I was a little bit like, oh, now you like me? Now I had to go all the way to the royal palace and do this and travel around the world. And now I'm back and now you recognize it. So I hope that at the moment I'm doing my master classes back home and I have my own events and I get to do, I get to bring my band as well. And they're all gospel musicians raised, born and bred in church. So it's beautiful that we get to do this and people do appreciate it. So I believe, especially with the master classes where I get to have a one-to-one, conversation with the people that are interested mainly in this genre, but, just they want the people that want to make a step forward in their career. you can definitely tell that when they leave the masterclass, they're quite touched by everything, and they just leave with a bit of hope where before there wasn't. So that's something that obviously touches me.
Amazing. Tell me about the master class. Tell me more about it. Do you travel across the country, or is it something that you do internationally, or specifically in Italy? Italy.
So we started in Italy actually because that was where one of the people that came to watch me at the show, I met them at the after party in San Siro Stadium in Milan, and she just basically gave me this idea. And I used to teach years ago singing, but it's never been, I would say, my biggest passion. But I've got a certificate I can teach. And she basically, she was like, well, you don't have to necessarily teach now, but you can, there'll be so many people that will be interested in your story and learn from you really. And just the fact that you are the only Italian that was able to access the gospel industry at this level, working with Donna Lawrence and the Kingdom Choir, traveling throughout the whole of America, and having this position between UK and America, and then going back home, it's quite an advantage position. So it's interesting how it started. So she gave me a little bit of a different outlook of what teaching in this case could be. So we started the masterclasses in Italy. The plan is to possibly expand as well here in the UK, and then wherever it takes me. But at the moment we're focusing in Italy mainly because people are very, very interested in the artists I sing with as well. So there's naturally there will be more affluence from that side, but I'm working on London side, and mainly I would say the morning is a whole day experience, and in the morning we talk about the technical side of things of singing. We dive into breathing and why is it so important. And obviously I accentuate some areas specifically of singing because obviously singing R&B and singing gospel, you do need a certain technique and a certain control in order to do that. And that's what people, especially in Italy, people are always curious and like, how do you do all those riffs, how do you do all of that? It's like just great breathing control. So we dive quite deep into the technical side, and then in the afternoon I get to hear them sing, and I give them feedback, and we also go into the business side of music. And the masterclass is called the contemporary vocalist. At the time, the 50s, 60s, 70s, the vocalist was just a vocalist. They didn't have to worry about the whole TikTok, Instagram, business. Make sure that you're relevant all the time. Make sure that your look is also that impactful. So I basically just dive into every single aspect of what, made me and was making me all the time, and things that I keep learning as well, because once I go on tour for like, 6, 7 weeks in America, the tiredness, the even vocally, there's so many challenges. And when I get to, achieve the results that I want, I get to bring them and teach, from experience. So it's quite amazing.
Tell me about those challenges, because from the outside looking in, we see these amazing singers such as yourself. You see the limelight, you see the big stage,
Yeah, you see the glam side.
you see you see the glam side. But tell us about the day to day, the rehearsals, the technical
Yeah.
aspects. So an aspiring singer can see, okay, it's great, but you still have to work. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's one of the most challenging experiences that a singer can face, mainly from a vocal point of view, because the performance itself is not the issue. You think that performing every other night, oh, you have to worry about your voice, you have to worry about this, but that's actually not what makes you tired. Performing is about an hour and a half. Obviously, you have a break in between as well, so you can have a breather. But the actual issue is the traveling, the atmospheric conditions as well, so rain, wind, cold, heat, humidity, dryness. That is what affects the voice the most. And obviously on top of it, depends on your character as well. You have to be a very, very adaptable person, because we're talking about doing, we've changed about 8 time zones in the span of 8 days and 16 states just in the first few days. So we're literally traveling, flying every other day. In the morning, we get picked up at 3 a.m. Then you have to stay awake until through security, and then get on the plane, and then connection for 4 hours, and then the next plane, and then following morning you're back in the venue, just do another show. And then people is a very important factor. You're traveling constantly 24/7 with people around you. I'm an introvert, so for me this is, if someone ever told me, oh, you'll be on tour with 17 people, in your face all the time, or you'll be speak even, you know, the masterclass side as well. It's just, you learn so much about your character more than anything else. And obviously, you have to be extremely disciplined with your voice, because, you know, it's all fun and games. It's all interesting when you have, you know, a day off in Seattle, but then it's raining and, you know, it's so humid and you risk to lose your voice. Yes, it's cool. You're missing Seattle is a bit, you know, it's not the best, but then you have to make sure that you can keep doing your shows. So you have to do a lot of sacrifices. I was in Vienna about, it was like 2023 during the autumn season with this Italian singer. We're traveling throughout Europe, and autumn obviously is the trickiest season because you can find some warmer places around, you know, southern Europe, but then, you know, northern Europe is cold, it's freezing. And would this theme park, which was so fun, and it was only us because it was like 10 p.m., you know, we're actually doing all the rides. At some point I just saw this thick fog coming down, and I was like, hey guys, I'm going. They're like, no, but we gotta do the rides. I was like, if I do this ride with this fog tomorrow, I'm not singing. And you need to know your limits, you know. It's, I'm a soprano, so my vocal folds are about 1 millimeter, 1.5 most. If I sing, you know, with constantly, or drink, or I have, you know, smoke. I don't do that anyway, but if I smoke or drink and I start shouting and I do the rides and I do all that, following day I'm not hitting the notes that I'm supposed to hit. So you should just know. So it's constant sacrifice, really. And sacrifice that in the end is worth it, because really you're completing an entire tour. The fact that you can complete an entire tour without losing your voice, that's already you know, a big win. And then there's everything else, the traveling, the weather. There's so much.
Wow. No, I'm fascinated by the aspect. You know, the other side is just singing. You know, that's all we
Yeah.
see. But you know, obviously, there's a lot of sacrifice, and it's very interesting to have a singer like you know, break it down. It's like, hey, it's not all fun and games. There's actually a
Not really. Sometimes after 2 weeks, you just want to run away because you're like, I love this, but I can't do this. Especially, you know, the people, when it's some people are extroverted, so they're fine. But, you know, we have, again, spending time with people that some of them are your friends anyway, because, you know, you've known them for a long time. Others are a bit more new, so you're getting to know them. The great thing of it though is that you create bonds that no one else will ever understand outside of the tour group, because when you're touring, it's like a bubble. So you, you know, there's someone that's able to see your character for 5 weeks. They can be closer to you than someone you've known for 20 years. So it's what's good that you take home as well is the type of relationships that you're able to form. And also, you don't have to be everyone's friend. You have to be nice to everyone, but you don't have to be everyone's friend. So it's learning who's for you, who's not, who triggers you, who you shouldn't be around, you know. So it's there's a lot of different things, but mainly on human level. You know, you can't have pride, because if you have pride, you're not singing. You can't have all of this, because otherwise you have a miserable experience. So yeah, there's a lot, but you learn by doing it for sure.
yeah, you're a professional. You know.
Yeah, I like to
Um,
think so.
hey, listen, I know you've been asked probably 1,000 times, but here's 1,001.
Go
You
ahead.
know, I know you sang at the royal wedding. You know, it was a huge moment. You know, internationally, obviously. Uh, how did your faith and belief in destiny play into that experience? You know, and what
Oh,
did it
that
mean for
was,
you
yeah.
to share in such a special moment with so many people?
It was quite incredible, even the way I got the call personally, because I grew up in a household where my parents are not believers. So as much as Italy, you know, we're very heavy on religion and sacraments and, you know, baptism, all of that. You know, we get baptized, we do the communion, we do what we need to do because it's culture. But a lot of people don't practice as much as it seems like, especially because of the Vatican. You know, there's not much faith, unfortunately, in church. Not God, but church.
Hmm.
My parents are not believers, as I said, so I kind of grew up with this, you know, I knew there was something, but I could never say it. And my life has been pretty much a testament, as you probably saw, of the incredible things that I was able to witness for my career, especially, but in general, just it's a constant, you know, it's a constant testimony of how God has just taken my life and said, I'm just going to breathe in here, here, here. And when I found God in 2017, I was born again, and I started going to this church where my friend took me to. Actually, I asked her to if I could go to her church. And everything made sense. Everything started making sense. So this was end of 2017. Early 2018, I hear this same friend who is a minister at the same church where I go to, talking about the possibility of, but it was a very like up in the air thing. It wasn't, nothing was set in stone. And when these big events get mentioned, as an artist, you learn to not attach the idea because you don't want to, if it doesn't happen, what do you do? So I heard that there was a possibility for some choir to be part of this possible wedding, but it was something that was so far from what anyone could do that you don't really believe in it. So you're like, oh yeah, I heard it, I just detached from it, completely forgot. And then in March 2018, I get 18th of March 2018, I get the call, and I was the very first person to be called by Clarence's household, which is King Charles' household, royal household. And I get this call, and my friend, who's Abimbola Amwako Jumpa, who was the person who actually created the choir to get to the royal wedding, she called me, and I was on the bus, and she was like, "Where are you?" It's like, "Oh, I'm on the bus, I'm going home." She's like, "Okay, just go to your room, close the door." I was like, "Oh, okay, sorry." I was like, "I'm going." So I get the call and she's like, "Look at your calendar." I said, "Yeah, where?" 19th of May this year. I said, "Yeah, it says a royal wet." Is that what you're asking me? She's like, "Yeah, but you can't tell anyone, not even your parents." I was like, "Listen, that's how do I do this? I've got work. I need to get." She's like, "No, you can't tell anyone. You literally can't tell anybody. Like the people that you work with, no one." And then I told my mum, but I told her to shut up because my mum was the only person that I was like, generally, please, because she was in another country. But my mum is the type of person that when this stuff happens, and then I'll tell you what happened as well, because it was quite hilarious. But I was like, I told my mum, I didn't tell anybody else, to the point that I knew who the other initial six people over me, they were going to be. And some of them were my best friends. So I had to keep quiet for like 4 or 5 days. And every day I was like, "Did you tell them? Did you tell them? Did you tell them?" She's like, "Not yet." No, but just tell them. I can't hold. Because imagine you're working with your best friend and you're telling her basically her life is about to change, but you can't tell her. So I was like, this is crazy. So finally she told her, and obviously, with this, and then, the Karen Gibson, who's Kingdom Choir's conductor, got into the picture. She brought the other 23 people, and Kingdom Choir, as it is today, got formed. But yeah, it was quite hilarious. I got to the point that when I got to Italy after a few weeks, just to celebrate my cousin's birthday, I go into the hairdressers full of people, like literally full, like this. From the other side of the shop, my hairdresser, "Nicole, oh my gosh, you're going to the royal wedding." I was like, "Mom, what did you do?" She's like, "Oh, come on, just nobody knows." I was like, "That's a whole shop." No, honestly, it was hilarious. So, but yeah, it was crazy because going back to how, I managed to get the call. My friend, as I said, who was also a minister in my church, there's several ministers in the church that I go to, and one of them was a very, very incredible lady I've always loved from the moment I got into the church. She was very, she took me under a wing, I would say, because when people know my story, they were, very affectionate. And I knew who she was, Minister Ava. Minister Ava happened to be, and nobody knew, King at the time, Prince Charles' deputy secretary, but nobody knew. So the truth is, the brief given by King Charles at the time for the royal choir was supposed to be 30 people from 30 different backgrounds, Christians, obviously. And I wasn't openly Christian until, 3 months before, basically 6 months before that call, which is interesting because if I didn't go to that church, if I didn't meet my friend, if I didn't meet the people that actually saw my path with religion as well, and how I felt with God and how I grew into it, I probably wouldn't have had the right requirements for me to get the call. And so it was all is when I got called, I was like, this is crazy, because once I realized who the people I met were, I was like, okay, this can't be a coincidence, because when like everything is just working for its own good. So, and it was an incredible experience. The royal wedding itself, I'm like, being honest, we were all shocked by the impact it had, because we had no idea that we were filmed that close. There were no cameras at the rehearsals. We didn't know what cameras could be, because inside, or all like we had like different, I would say, foliage in different like sides of the room. So they're like trees and leaves, and just the church was incredibly decorated, so you couldn't tell where cameras were. So we're like, okay, we're just gonna do this thing, and we're probably gonna be in the corner. Nobody's gonna see us. We're gonna do our song and then get home. And our phones didn't work on the day because obviously, for security reasons, they basically cut off all connections and reception and everything. So there was no Wi-Fi, no reception, nobody could call in or out. So we get back on the coach after we finish the performance. We go back to Buckingham Palace, but between Windsor and when you see the sign to say hello, bye Windsor, our phones literally exploded because we had connection back on our phones. And as I did it, literally it rang for about 45 minutes straight. It did not stop. I had people from Australia who have my surname in Italy messaging me saying, "Oh, I'm your relative because I've got the same surname as you. I just saw you on TV." My kindergarten teacher, literally, I've never seen so many messages. We've never seen it because it was crazy. And I didn't sleep for the following 48 hours because I just wanted to see everything. We were on Oprah, we went on a Steve Harvey show. And then finally, just when I was about to sleep, my friend calls me and she's like, okay, it was like 3 a.m. on Sunday. So this was 2 days later. 3 a.m. And she's like, oh, get ready. 5 a.m. A car is coming. We're going to Good Morning America and Good Morning Britain. And I was like, what, 5 a.m. and when? She's like, no, now. We're going now. And from then it's just been, history. We signed the contract with Sony and, we started traveling the world. But it was pretty amazing. It was an incredible thing. And it was such a special moment as well. But to do it for such special people. I've always had, I was always a fan of Prince Harry. I was lucky enough to meet him before. I've sang for him before in the UK. And Meghan herself, Meghan Markle is just such an incredible lady. So it was a true pleasure, really.
Amazing. My wife and I had a chance to watch. We were watching the wedding on the driving to Montreal, and
Oh,
it was great. It was a great moment. It was different. It was diverse, which was
it was new. It was life
it was
changing, in like history changing. I was so proud of the fact. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit um not frightened. How what was I mean? I was a little bit worried because I was the only white singer to sing there, and you know what it is. The world is not very kind. So I didn't. I wasn't. I was also a bit scared about what would people say. The fact that is she the white token? Is she this? Is she that? So and luckily, and people were like, "Nah, don't worry, nobody's going to think that." But I got into my head a little bit, and thankfully, that performance got received in the right way because it was such an impactful and important moment for Black history, especially within the royal household. And I was so proud I was able to just be a part of it. Because I'm not Black myself, but I'm lucky and privileged to live within the Black community because of what I sing, and my entire life rotates around it. So it was just, I can't say there was anything more than a privilege, really.
that's amazing. But tell me about that. Obviously diversity in the music industry. For
Hmm.
you being, you're the white singer in a predominantly black genre. So do you feel like there's a lot of pressure that comes with that?
Oh, absolutely. It happens all the time. It's happened for a long time. Before I used to be a little bit more wary about it. Now I'm just like, it is what it is. I understand. I totally understand the reason why that happens. Gospel itself, obviously, it's a genre that anyone could sing because we're just singing, we're singing about God. So it's not something that we definitely need to relate to a certain ethnic background. However, obviously we know the history of gospel. When you know the history of gospel, everything changes. And this is why I say in Italy they don't know it because they just don't understand it. They think that the most Amazing Grace is just one of the songs. They don't understand the background. They don't understand the reason why gospel is sang that way. They don't understand where it comes from. So obviously because we're all singing for God, we should all be allowed to sing it, quote unquote. But at the same time, it holds such a weight, um, history wise and politically and everything really. But it's gonna, it's our fault, my predecessor's fault. But it is. I don't mind because I understand where the judgment comes from. So I'm okay because I know I come from a good place and I know I learn every single day, especially, within the community itself. I just ask questions. If I don't understand, I ask the question. I try to learn every single day. I try to get better at what I can and and humbly approach this. So if people look at me in a certain way, I get it. It is what it is. So obviously, as I said before, I took it a little bit more. to heart. I was like, oh, but I didn't do anything. Why, why is there a prejudice that I can't sing, basically? But there is, even in America, I did speak when we had a night where we were praying with some people in the choir. And I did say, I was like, I do feel sometimes when I get to the show, and you can tell even people that are just watching, it's like I don't get taken serious until I open my mouth. That's
Mm,
that's the that's the the how would say the impact that it kind of comes through. But I don't mind it because I understand, because unfortunately there's a lot of people that try to approach um you know R&B and gospel in general, and unfortunately it doesn't sound the way it should sound. So I get why also people can be a little bit like, we're not sure. But there are incredible white singers, who white and non-black singers, who, if we go to the Philippines, there's some singers that you're just like, how? There's like loads and loads and loads of singers naturally talented that could have technically the propension towards R&B. But gospel itself is just, it holds so much more weight. Obviously, we know that R&B, blues, it's all a, denomination of the same thing.
hmm.
But when you detach a little bit God from it, technically it's still a very, very difficult genre to approach. And it requires, naturally, for white people and non-black people, requires a lot more study than, I have, I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to singing technique. And I do have all my theories. I've developed a lot of theories, and there's a lot even in the physical, in the body of, for example, a black female singer. There's nothing I can do to sound like a black female singer, and it's fine. It's okay to be yourself, and it's okay to sing to God the way you feel like you can sing, giving yourself. You're unique. So I can't compare myself. I can't get in a room that originally wasn't made for me, and I have the privilege to enter with the assumption that I need to be accepted. I will be, because thankfully there's a lot of great people in the world, and actually, when once they get to know me, great, you're an amazing singer, we'll get you to work. But there's still people that don't accept it, even in London. There's still people that look at me, head to toe, and they're still, after about 20 times they've met each other, they're still like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm like, we worked 3 months ago. It just happens. You just have to learn and understand that it's got nothing to do with you specifically, and to actually work in a way that you can be trusted, so that the next person who's like me can also be trusted, and slowly we can have a little bit more credibility, I would say.
You can tell you respect the craft, and you're very good at it. My wife and I saw you in Ottawa a few months ago, and
Oh, amazing.
you started singing. We didn't say anything. We just looked at each other like,
But
right?
until then
So,
you're like, not sure about this one. I'm joking.
oh no, I mean,
Um,
you're part of the Kingdom Choir. You assume that everyone in that choir can do amazing things, and
of
I
course.
just knew that everyone in that choir could sing, and just gave us goosebumps. And I'm glad we were able to take our kids who went to the show. My daughter, who loves to sing, and she sees great singers like you. I mean,
Oh,
it was a great event, a great event.
it's amazing. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed yourselves, because it was Ottawa. I still remember the show in Ottawa. It was amazing. It was a really, really great show. And we were relatively fresh, because we only had, that was the third date in Canada. So we had like 3 days back to back, but it was a lovely day. Honestly, really, really beautiful.
That's amazing. Tell me about you know, the balance between singing gospel and R&B.
Hmm.
Do you find the struggle? I mean, from reading, from knowing a little bit of history about the music, it seems a lot of singers, it's like either you go left or you go right. How do you strike the balance between the two?
Well, it is not easy, because they are very separate genres, and as an artist, you need to know what your message is. Um, you need to know how you want to communicate. My ideal genre that I'm trying to, craft for myself is actually, R&B, but including, obviously, I mean, naturally there will be the same chords, some gospel chords would be there. I am lucky enough because my producer is a gospel pianist. Again, I'm born and bred in church, so it just revolutionizes anything you give him. He was able to make an Italian song a gospel song. Anything you give him, he just knows. He's just incredibly gifted and really, really knowledgeable. So having him in my team has been pivotal, because I just wanted to, and he knows my voice really well as well. We've known each other. He's my best friend's husband. So we've known each other for 7, 8 years, and we've had, even on a personal level, he knows my limits, vocal, if there's any vocal issue, he knows where I shine, he knows what chords to play to make me shine, which
Hmm.
obviously, where do I have the freedom? Because once you establish such a strong musical partnership, you just start exploring, and nothing is off limits at that point. It's just it's a delicate balance when it comes to the lyrics, because you can be, my challenge was being an R&B artist, but I didn't want to conform R&B that was, swear words and sex related lyrics and music videos. I've had so many people, especially in London, people that was supposed to be managers, that would try, oh, I'm going to get you this video, I'm going to, invest in your music video, I'm going to do this. And then you get there, there's like, a lot of girls that are naked. And it's just like, no, this is not what I want. And it's a difficult thing, because the secular music industry, it's not, obviously, it's a very difficult place to navigate. There's a lot of things that happen, especially when you get out of things. Like, even when I go to Italy, the group that I travel with, they don't really understand anything about my faith. So when I say things like, oh, um that spiritually some things for me become heavy, I know that, the swear words and the sweat and the smoking and the thing, and I just need to, I detach. But some people may think I'm boring. I don't care, because that's not something that, I just try to keep myself as pure as I can in an industry where, obviously, unfortunately, there's just very little purity, I would say. But I think in the years I've kind of taken it for granted, because obviously I was growing up. But in the last 2 years, I would say, the more I go back into, I do these tours, which are completely, is a full immersion into gospel. And then I go back to the world, and then I go back to the gospel, and then I go back to the world. And I'm like, okay, now slowly I'm trying to see that I'm trying to really master that balance, because I get to basically go back into my bubble, which is the beautiful gospel bubble where, we praise God every day. So everything we do, supposedly, obviously we're not perfect, but supposedly is to glorify God. I try to bring that wherever I go, even when I'm with people that don't understand me, even when I'm with people that, the one thing I've always appreciated, and I've always spoke very highly of, Karen Gibson, our director, is the fact that she really, really passed the message on me as well, that doesn't matter where I am, if my purpose is singing and, just communicating and really trying to, deliver the message of God, even if I'm not singing about God, I'm always so wary about how I deliver. That's the one thing. So when I'm on stage and I'm with 65,000 people, and I'm next to this singer, and the singer, obviously, they're doing what they're doing, and the music is saying what they're saying, and I'm forced to say some things. I'm forced to say some swear words. I'm forced to, unfortunately, there's some stuff that I can't get around because of contracts. And I'm like, but I know, things like, for example, kindness, a very, very silly, and, not silly, but, something that you would consider that is silly not to consider kindness. But when I finish the show, I always go out and meet the fans, because they bring gifts and they bring food and they bring all sorts of things. And the other backing vocalists before, they were like, why do you go out like that? And I'm like, well, it's like, it's the least I can do. Like, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for these people, because these people create fan clubs, and naturally they give you the exposure. So I'm like, the least I can do is go and say hi. And when I meet these people, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so kind, you're so nice. And I'm like, but why not? Like, why would I have to be anything else? And then, unfortunately, you start seeing how the country works there, and how the people that do my job apparently have issues with me without me even knowing of their existence, because I come from the outside now. So, like, who's this girl? What are they doing? She's stealing our job. So it's, there's a lot of things that you wouldn't know. But
Yeah.
just by being yourself, just by being kind, you're basically, killing all of these prejudices that people might have. So that for me is, what's the most important, because music is amazing. But at the end of the day, who we are as people is going to spill within our music. So, you know, it's I think it's just a blessing that I was able to be around, the gospel world, and the church where I go to, and my pastor, and have the right people that I have in my life, so that when I go out in the world, I don't feel threatened, because I know that I can continue to just speak about God. Obviously there'll be challenges, because some people don't understand this, some people don't believe in it, some people, but it is what it is. It's it's openly, slowly. Um, maybe we can change some things.
I love this. I love this energy. I love your music. It's there's so many questions I can ask you about music. We can speak about hours, but you know, I'm going to ask you a question, an interesting question. I'm going to name you a few singers.
Hmm.
If you could describe, if you could give me one word, how you feel about them, if that's
Okay.
okay with you. If I say Whitney Houston,
Glorious.
it's glorious.
No, we can't say anything about anything else about Whitney. So
George Michael.
smooth.
If I tell you Andrea Bocelli.
Oh, I say poetic. That's what
Mhm.
comes to mind.
How about Celine Dion?
Listen, Celine is the reason why I sing, so I don't. There's no objectives that are big enough for her. Yeah. Infinite, incredible, amazing, the best singer in the world.
If I ask you Marsha Ambrosius,
Oh, Marsha, warm.
yeah. And let's leave it with Amy Winehouse.
Sad. Um, what's Amy? I used to love Amy. Um, impactful.
Impactful. Hey, listen. Well, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate this conversation.
Oh,
I'm
thank
sure
you
a
so
lot
much
of
for having me.
people, hey, it's a pleasure to have you. A lot of people will probably learn a lot. I've learned a lot, the technical side, which is very, very interesting. So I like to end my conversation with this we learn today and we lead tomorrow. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for your kindness. You've been lovely since the day. Well, we didn't meet officially in person, but
No,
there was an exchange for a couple of months, and thank you for the
yeah,
patience as well
I
for the
appreciate
traveling around.